Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be doing a little bit of Copic coloring. I picked one of my favorite companies, which is Magnolia. It's a small little company in Sweden. This little guy, his name is Edwin, and he's gotten himself in quite a predicament today. His shirt's caught in an anchor, and I just thought it would be fun to play with this. So let me pull out some Copic colors here. For the face, I tend to use E000, E00, E11, E13, and then a little bit of R20 for the cheeks. So as I get coloring here, I wanted to talk a little bit about making videos. If you follow along or pay attention, and if you don't, trust me, I totally understand. It's been over a year since I've made a video. And this is part of my New Year's resolutions, is to get back into making videos. I absolutely love making videos. I love interacting with everybody on social media and on blogs and in the crafty community. But somewhere along the way, I think I just got so over concerned about everything had to be perfect. And I don't know, it got to be like overwhelming and kind of a crazy feeling, and I don't know. So then I was like, well, I can't make a video because, you know, you'll hear my dogs in the background, or I can't make a video because, you know, the baby is awake and you might hear them in the background. And so then I just never made a video, and a whole year passed, and I made 0 videos in a whole year. And I was like, you know what, this is crazy, because I'm sure you have dogs, and I'm sure you have kids, and I'm sure they make noise, and if it bugs you that much, I guess you can stop listening to me. But if I wait for life to be perfect, I would never create. There would be no creation, because life is never perfect. Life is messy, life is crazy, and I'm going to try to embrace that a little bit and not get so hung up on everything. Because, you know, my coloring's not perfect, my cards aren't perfect. You know what, it's just, you're chasing something that doesn't exist. So I think I'm just going to embrace life for what it is, or I'm going to try to. It's my New Year's resolution, so to speak, and just enjoy every single moment of it. So hopefully you'll come with me on that journey. And I'm going to try to make a bunch of cards in Copic, watercolor, whatever it is. We're just going to keep trying things and learning from our experiences. And some cards we'll love, some cards we'll hate. I'm sure that's not true. I don't know if I've ever made a card I've hated. Cards I like more than others, but tell me what you think. Have you guys made a card you've hated? What did you do with it? If you hated it, did you give it to someone you didn't like? Did you throw it in the trash can? What became of the said card? And what did it look like? Do you have a picture? Oh my god, I would love to see. What was it that you didn't like? I don't know if I've ever made a card if I hated. Anyway, I know some people hate Tilda. And that's another reason I'm like, oh, I haven't been making cards, because this is gonna blob on me. My E13 marker is in desperate need of cleaning. It's got gunk on it, but I just haven't had time, so therefore it's kind of a mess. So hopefully you guys are watching me, or enjoying watching me color the skin in. I'm doing a little bit of a different technique than some people use. I covered my skin with my lightest color, which is E000, and then I went right to my darkest color, which was my E13, and I added in the shadows, and then I'm going through the colors darkest to lightest then to fade them out. And that's partly because these colors blend very easily together. They're not hard to blend at all. So that's nice. And it saves time. I did make a little boo-boo here, but I think I can fix it. with a blender pen, but I gotta wait for it to dry. All right, so those are my skin colors. 100% sure what I want to use for the blue, but I pulled out this denim blue that's B91, 93, 95, 97. And I'm going to start with that, and I'm going to start with his shorts. And I'm going to color dark to light. And so what I'm doing now is I'm just the places that I think it would be the absolute darkest. I'm just putting in a very tiny amount of this dark, dark, dark blue. And the artist gave us some indications because there's folds and little dots in the artwork that tell us that that's the area it's going to be the darkest. So now I'm going to go down to B95 and I'm going to just start flicking out a little bit and pulling that darker area out, or spreading it out, or I don't know what the right word there is, to pull it closer to the center of the image maybe. And notice that I'm turning my paper every time because I flick better away from me, so I want to maximize that. I don't want to have to flick towards me if I can help it. And sometimes I do, but and lastly, I'm going to go in with B91. Close up those white gaps because I don't want my highlights to be white. I want them to be a real just light blue. Now this looks okay, but I want it to be darker. So I'm actually going to go in and get B99. And I'm going to kind of go through this process again because I just feel like these shorts are too light. But, you know, you can add more dark color, but you can't take it off. So I didn't want to start too dark and then be worried or mess it up or whatever. And I am putting just a real small amount on here. I'm not doing a whole lot with that because I'm going to have, it's a small space for one. And I don't want to lose my highlight. I just want to add some definition to these shorts so they look cute. Well, it's been a whole year since we chatted or I've had a chance to talk to you. I'd love to know what you're working on. I'd love to know what you're making or questions you have or whatever. Whatever thoughts you have on your mind. I want to get the conversations going again. I apologize I ghosted everybody. I guess my big news is we had a baby in 2021, which is part of the reason. Babies are loud, but he's cute, but he's loud. He is now 10 months old. He can walk, which has been interesting. He's definitely feels like he's late for some engagement in his life. Might be just to keep up with his older brother. If you go to my blog, I do have some pictures of him. So if you are interested. So I'm repeating the same process here with the hat. So I started with the B99 because I wanted it to match the shorts. And I'm just flicking in those colors. And again, I picked colors. Nothing about this is hard. These colors here work very well together. They're very easy to blend. They like to go together. So far I have done nothing too hard to do. Now, I was thinking about his hat, and I can't tell if this is meant to be red, or I'm assuming this is a red band across his hat, or at least I plan on making it red. But I think this part down here I'm going to make blue. There's like a little strip, and I'm hoping my decision here makes sense when it's all done. But I think that'll help make the band on the hat pop a little bit more. So we'll use 3 colors there, but it's just a real thin piece. And lastly, I'm thinking that there's some blue detail on his shirt, but I actually think I'm going to wait on those. I think I'm going to pause on that. And let's pull out some grays. Here I have some C3, C1, and C0, and I want the shirt to look white, but I want to add some shadows in. So I'm going to come in here, and on his shirt where there's these folds, I'm going to put a tiny bit of C3, and right where the anchor's got him, boy, he's having a bad day, or maybe he made a bad decision. I don't know, what do you think happened here? Not too sure, Edwin. Were you chasing a girl off the boat? Did you see a fish? Maybe it was a mermaid. Maybe he was jumping in after a mermaid. Do you guys make up stories for your stamps as you are coloring them up? Imagine what they did to end up in this situation. You probably are ready to check me into the funny farm, but that's okay. Probably can benefit from that. So I'm just adding in a little bit of shading. It probably looks a little bit like his shirt's gray, but I think I want the shirt to be a different color than the paper, so I'm okay with that. While I have these colors out, I'm going to very quickly add a little bit to his socks. Nothing fancy. All right, so we can put these away. Now let's start with this band on his hat, because I know I want to make that red. And I should have said in the beginning, you probably have figured this out. I've decided that my light source is coming directly at him, so my highlights are all going to be in the center. They're in the center of the hat, in the center of his shirt and his pants. Not that I think it makes a huge difference with this image, but, you know, it's always good practice to know where your center of your light's coming from. So here, these are behind his hat, so the part here in his head, it's going to just have a smidgen of that shadow, and then we're going to blend that out with our mid-tone red and our highlight red. Okay. Now, I saw there's a couple spots on his shirt here that are these, I'm not sure what they're like, collar? I guess that's a collar. I'm just going to color them with C1 so they're not so stark white. Real quick right there. And then I'm going to use my reds to color this bandana around his neck. And I'm going to try to go very lightly to only get the dark and the deepest folds of that bandana. And I'm imagining his head's coming up over that part, so that part would be pretty dark. And then these, the light part coming down here. And I am going to grab my R32 for this because I had room kind of make my ends of my bandana just a smidgen lighter. Just emphasizes the you know, the highlight a little bit more. And I think that's done. I'm done with my reds now, I think. So we have the shoes and we have the hair, and I have a little bit of detail on the shirt that I know I want to come back and do, but I think I'm going to let that dry a little bit. Let's do the shoes. Let's do them brown. I'm going to start pulling out my E47, E44, E43, and 42. And let's just start here and see what we get. So I'm starting with my darkest. I'm coming in. Now I'm imagining the shoe is 3D, right? So this part here is farther back than the part here on like this part right here. Hopefully you can see that around my hand. So I'm going to put a little bit of dark there, just along the sides to make it look rounded. And then I'm working my way back down through the colors, pulling that darker brown towards the center of the shoe. So this is my second mid-tone. And I don't want the shoes to look too light, so I flicked out a little bit more. And then I'm going to come in with my E42, blend that out. Now I honest to God, I think this looks a little bit lighter at least than I wanted in my head. So I'm going to come back with my E44. And because I feel like the center part of the shoe is too light. So I'm coming back and I'm bringing a little bit more dark to the sides of the shoe. You can tell me if you think this was a good idea, or Chris, you should have left this alone. Inquiring minds want to know. I don't know. Maybe a good idea, maybe a bad idea. I'm thinking good idea. Still just pushing that dark towards the center. So, and then we'll come back in with our highlight just to smooth out those lines between the colors and actually darken up the highlight a little bit because I don't want it to be too stark. But I actually think I like that better now. That looks more natural to me, less like forced, so to speak. I mean, it all depends on you and your style. I like highlight, but I don't like it when it's so like in your face, like, I don't know. It's not my style. And because I have these out and I like to try to use the least, you know, I try to keep my colors minimal in a project this small. Just coming in with E47. Yep, E47. And adding some brown to his hair. And I can use these colors but in a different way that it won't make his hair and his shoes look like, oh my god, you know, they're the same color. So markers, depending on how you use them, you can get different blending, you know, types and looks out of the same markers. Yes, it's still going to be brown. Yes, it's going to still be in the same family, but it's not going to look the same, or that's my hope that it's not going to. So his hair is so minimal. I'm kind of using a pouncing technique because I'm just kind of making it, trying to make it look a little shaggy, so to speak. Although sailors should be clean cut, right? They get their head shaved when they go into boot camp or something. And I've decided not even to use my E42. This is E43. And I'm just kind of pouncing it on. I don't want these to blend perfectly because hair's not blended perfectly. Kind of just pouncing that color. And you tell me, does his hair look the same color as the shoes? I think they're different enough you wouldn't look at that and go, you know, that's weird. So I'm okay with it. I want to finish up some of those things on his shirt. Oh, we probably should have done the rope. Well, we might come back and do the rope too. We'll see. I forgot about the rope was being brown. But let's do the shirt because we're here. I am going to come in and with my darkest blue up in the parts that are the closest to him. That was E99. And now this is E97. And then we'll do E95. So we're just finishing up that little, I want to call it lapel. I'm not sure if that's the right, like whatever this little bib thing is on him. And then I'm just going to take E97 just because it was the mid-tone for that part, and I'm going to color in these buttons. And I think we are done with the blue, so I can put those away. To do the anchor, I chose C7, C5, and C3. I may have to go back and grab another color. I'm not really sure. I'm kind of making this up as I go. But the part here that's under his shirt is definitely going to be the darkest, so I'm going to start there. And the artist kind of gave ideas of the shape of this, but they didn't really, you know, complete the lines, like these little lines, you know, underneath this part of the anchor here. So I'm going through with the darkest part and putting some shading there under here. I think that'll help the anchor have a more 3D look to it. All right, so now I'm going to come in with my C5, and now I'm going to start flicking out and pushing that color. Okay, cool. Trying to decide what to do here. That little part there, I guess we'll mimic what we did there. And now this is C3. I'm pulling that color or flicking that color. Blending it in any spots that I see it needs. Again, these colors, everything I've picked today has been super easy to work with, nothing challenging. It's just trying to give that a little bit of a 3D look. I actually really like that. That might be my favorite part of this card so far. All right, and then lastly we have this rope. And just because I want to prove my point, I'm going to grab out those same browns I had. I'm going to use 47, 44, and 43. And I'm going to take my 47, and I'm not trying to do it perfectly, but just trying to put some twists, you know, like lines in it so it looks like the rope is twisted. Kind of adding that. Blending it out a tiny little bit with E43. Now, I had a couple little mistakes here. I went out of the lines here. I have a couple little spots. So let me grab my E00. Now, one of the things is that I see when people color is they go out of the lines and they go, oh my gosh, I gotta fix that right away. Notice that I've left it to the very end. It's actually better to let the alcohol sit and kind of dry up before you start adding more alcohol to it. Think about it like milk on a table, and you come at it with a wet sponge. Is that going to be, you know, like you're just kind of sliding the milk all over the table rather than cleaning it up. So if you come at it with just a damp sponge, not sopping wet, we can then push that color back to where we want it to go. And so we can see now that that peach is back where we want it to go. So let me look and see, is there any other little spots that we don't like? There's this one little spot over here with the blue. And you know, some things are easier to move than others, but so far so good. Just pushing, letting the alcohol push that color back to where I want it to go. So hopefully, if anything else, this has helped you learn to let it sit before you add more alcohol to the problem. All right, forgive me if I missed anything else. I'm still kind of poking around. Sometimes it's funny how you don't see things and then you'll notice them in other parts of the card, but that's okay. You can always come back with your blender pen and be like, oh, I didn't notice that this and this were out of place. All right, so lastly, I'm going to take my white gel pen. And one of the things I like to do, and you know, when appropriate, but in this case here, I'm going to add or deepen the highlight a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit here to his hat, maybe a little bit on this side. A little bit here to his bandana. Thinking here, a little bit on the anchor. Maybe a little bit here. Trying to think of anywhere else. Maybe there. The classic one is the one on the shoes. Very cool. All right, if I think of anything else, I add it, but I think I'm pretty okay with this. So let's finish this card up and see what it looks like. So I pulled out, I thought that, you know, like he's hanging, but what is he hanging over? And one of the big things is when we color, we should always ground our image. But you wouldn't ground this in the traditional way because he's not over a ground, right? He is hanging. So I thought, well, what would be another way to create that illusion on a card? So what I went through is I found in my stamps is a wave stamp. This one comes out of a Stampin' Up set called On the Beach. Sadly, I'm pretty sure this is retired because I've had it forever. It used to be wood mounted and I've like taken it off the wood block and mounted it on my own. But I picked out a navy ink and I thought I would, let's see, I don't know exactly where I need to place this in here. I'd stamp waves onto the bottom of this to kind of give it that watery feel. There we go. I didn't want them to quite overlap, but I wanted it to look continuous. And again, I'm just using a navy ink. This one's by Hero Arts. I'm not sure what the official name is for their navy, but it doesn't matter. It looks like Night of Navy from Stampin' Up! If you ask me. And then the last thing we need to do is add a sentiment. So I went through all of my summary stamps, and I mean, you could put a bunch of things like "see you later," you know, the whole gamut of them. I pulled out one of them. These are both by Ellen Hudson, I'm pretty sure. This one's like "You're a lifesaver," that would be cute. "Stay salty," you know, "We'll all float on," "Something amazing awaits on the horizon." You know, there's tons of like tons of aquatic things that you could put in here, but this one made me laugh, so let's see if I can make you chuckle too. Hopefully. The only thing is I'm pretty good about sending birthday cards, at least I try, and getting them there on time. It's very rare that I forget, but I don't care. This is too funny. It says, "Oh ship, forgot your birthday." And I just think that's like the most perfect sentiment for this little guy. And I decided I wanted this to stand out, and so I'm doing it in black. And so I'm using my VersaFine ink and stamping this in black. Perfect. Give that a second to dry. All right, so then the last thing is to assemble this into a card. And so I found some blue paper. This is by Stampin' Up. I think it's called Soft Sky. Mounting that onto my white A2 card base. Now, I had some thoughts when I was putting this card together that I was looking for another way to ground this image. And I was, you know, there's so many times we put pieces of paper as like banners on one side, and I thought, well, what if we turn this 90 degrees? So I'm going to try it, and I see how I like this feel. So under him, putting it this way, and then gluing it to the card. So it's kind of, instead of being anchored by the side, I'm anchoring it to the bottom, which is something I don't see a lot in cards that I, online when I poke through forums or Pinterest or whatever. So hopefully this is a cool idea. And there we go. We have our finished card. I hope you like this. I think I'm going to put this for sale in my shop. I'll link the information below. If you want to support me, you can purchase this card and send it to one of your friends. If not, I'd love it if you leave me a comment or just something that cheerful that says, hey, I'm glad that you're still here. I really have missed this. I'm going to work really hard to get back at it. If you don't see anything from me, don't be afraid to poke the bear and be like, hey, you're taking yourself too seriously. You need to get back to having fun. And so that's it. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.